Welcome back to the Get Off the Treadmill podcast for small business owners and entrepreneurs, where we show you how to build a successful business and to have a life too. We're going to dive into another topic that helps us make more money in less time and to get off the treadmill so we can experience a life of significance. And now, your host and the author of the #1 best-selling business book, Making Money is Killing Your Business, Chuck Blakeman.
Today I'm with Jeff Krommendyk. He started his career in the insurance industry with Century Insurance, and after a great 10-year run with them, he followed his dream and his passion for insurance and purchased an independent insurance agency in Littleton, Colorado, and a Security First Insurance Agency was born. Jeff's journey as a business owner is a great story. So many of us have experienced it. It's the thrill of the startup, the long hours, the tough times, coming to the end of ourselves, learning how to build a business that gives us freedom, and how he did that and gave him freedom in his business, not from it. For Jeff, faith, family, and friends continue to be at the top of his priorities, and he is happily married to Leslie for 28 years, and he's got 2 amazing boys that are launching their own careers here in Denver. Welcome, Jeff. It's great to have you on the podcast.
Thanks, Chuck. Great to be here. Appreciate you having me, and it's great to see you again.
Yeah, you too. Well, today we're going to talk about business maturity and specifically what we call the BMD, the business maturity date, and how getting off the treadmill is the key to getting that done. But I want to just start with kind of a question about the first few years. What was it like? You know, you get your business idea, you get these hopes, these dreams, and you start out, and for the first couple, 3-4 years, you have this thing that you're just moving with. I just want to get your feeling of what your experience was when you started out, and how the hopes and dreams became something that may not have been all you hoped it would be. But let's start with the good stuff. Hopes and dreams.
Yeah, such a great question. And thinking back, that was almost 20 years ago, where I left corporate America and had this itch that I just felt needed to be scratched, this entrepreneurial itch to get into business. I loved the industry that I was in, but thought, you know what, the grass is greener, certainly on the business ownership side of the fence, and I decided to leave everything that was stable and comfortable and known, and went ahead and made the leap and bought a small insurance agency in downtown Littleton, and really started to realize my dream.
So let me stop you on that for a second. Michael Gerber, in his book from 1986 called the E-Myth, he talks about the entrepreneurial spasm that we get, when we get sick of doing it for somebody else. What motivated you to leave the security of that management position in a corporation to strike out on your own to start your own business? What was motivating that?
Yeah. I think, as in all corporate settings, I think the rhythm, the cycle just begins to wear on, especially a sales guy like I was, right? I mean, it's kind of same old thing. What are you going to do for me today? It's never, yesterday's never enough. So just, I think, being somewhat exhausted by that cycle, and again, having to, do the same thing even better the next year. It was just becoming a little boring and quite frankly, tiring. And I had always had somewhat of an entrepreneurial spirit. I wouldn't call myself a serial entrepreneur by any means, but really just was intrigued. And maybe it was a spasm, per se, but once I acted on it, it was too late to go back.
I think we all have those. I still have spasms where hey, I think I'll do this. And then, you look back, what in the world caused me to do that? You realize, hey, that really was a reaction, and they're good reactions. And I appreciate your distinction. Anytime we need to put a qualifier on a word, it's probably because the word isn't exactly precisely what we want. When you said, I'm probably not I may be an entrepreneur, I don't know, but I'm not a serial entrepreneur. I've done a lot of studies on this, and I think there's a real distinction, and they're both great, and they just take different paths between a business owner and an entrepreneur. Bill Gates was a business owner.
Yeah.
One of the richest men, if not the richest man on earth for a while, but he was a business owner. Steve Jobs was an entrepreneur. The difference was Bill Gates had one thing he learned, and he learned it from somebody else. He went out on his own, and he just got better and better at that one thing his whole life. Just was that one thing. And other people go out and say, okay, where is there a hole in the economy that I don't know? I don't know what I'm doing, but I see a hole over. I think I'll go try and fill it. That's the crazy, wild-eyed entrepreneur who fails 9 times out of 10. But the 10th one is an incredible win and all that stuff. So I just appreciate. I want to make that distinction for our listeners, that there really is a distinction, and they're both great, and they're both 2 different paths. And you took that one. I personally, being the entrepreneur type, having built 13 businesses in 10 industries, I wish I was more of the business owner, because the entrepreneur leaves a lot of damage in their path. There's a lot of things that your family has to endure and other people around you that, if you just stuck to one thing. So I really appreciate that. And they both have the same passion. We want to improve the world.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it is. It's really good to know who you are and who you aren't, and those around you to know who you are and who you aren't, so that they can either choose to sign up or not, right? So.
Exactly. So you had that desire, that dream, you went out and you bought something, and you showed up the first day or the first few weeks, and I'm guessing it was exhilarating. For me, it was.
Yeah,
it's 13 different
absolutely.
times.
No, it was great. I mean, I think what I didn't know was certainly benefiting me at that point. It was super exciting. Felt like the adventure of a lifetime. Had a great time doing it. Really, didn't raise any capital per se to kind of get me through year 1 or year 2, but I had some savings that really allowed my wife and I to kind of live on those savings. So I didn't take a paycheck from the business. I think my theory going in to the first couple of years was, hey, I'm the last one that gets paid. I'm the business owner here, and I was fully prepared on that front. But yet it was just this exhilarating season that really propelled me through stage 1 into stage 2 survival mode. Burned a lot of fuel getting the rocket off the ground, as you often say. And before I knew it, I would say into year 2, going into year 3, I'm like, is this really what this is all about? Is this really what the next 20, 30 years is going to consist of? I mean, this hope of time and money has certainly not led to significance at this point in time. I am like burning the candle at both ends. Yeah, we're finally profitable. We're sustainable. We've hit a level of subsistence, but man, this is no way to live.
So you talked about that offline, and I really appreciate that. First of all, I appreciate what you said earlier. What I didn't know really benefited me. Ignorance is bliss at times. And
it was so good.
Yeah. It can be a really good thing, because it's like raising your kids. If you got a 6-inch binder on what would happen over the next 18 years before you had kids, we wouldn't reproduce.
That's right. No doubt about it.
But of course, the joy comes with the difficulty as well. And so, yeah, I really appreciate that it's good ignorance. It should be that you shouldn't know everything, nor should you know all the joys you would have either, because then they wouldn't be joys. So, but then it started to settle in, and I think it settled in for you faster than it does for some people. I know for me, you said after a couple or 3 years, it was like, I think one of the things you said off air was that ownership wasn't all I had hoped for.
Yes.
Kind of give that a little more breath.
Yeah, I just think I'm not unique in this realm, but I just felt like gosh, it'd be great to own a business. That way I'd be in charge of my time, in charge of my money, and everything would be great. I think it's just that extremely romanticized picture that we all have as inspiring entrepreneurs, that gosh, the life of business ownership is really where it's at. And I was certainly wooed by that, and quickly realized that that wasn't all the case.
Yeah, I think, and again, you're right. We all experience that, and at some point, I've had people who experienced it for 20 years. It finally came to them, This isn't all it was cracked up to be. And for me, I went through probably 3 or 4 businesses that all lasted 3 or 4 years at a time. So it was a long stretch for me before I finally said in my 5th or my 6th business, it was actually my 6th business, I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I've got to do this differently. So I still wanted to be a business owner, because once you taste that, there's a sense of freedom you were missing in your corporate job. You mentioned, hey, I was tired of doing the same old thing and kind of having to report in. And there's a joy in that. It's like, we need a bumper sticker that says it's a business owner thing you wouldn't understand. Because
Yes.
once you get that, you realize, yeah, I'm going to keep this. So I kept doing it, but I was doing it the same. I was just on a treadmill reproducing the same dumb result every time. And in my 6th business, I just said, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it differently. So you began to figure out that it wasn't what it was cracked up to be. What was missing? What do you think was missing?
Well, a lot. Looking back, certainly a lot was missing. I had a job, and I wanted to be a business owner, and so I think
I'm talking specifically when you started to get to this realization that being a business owner after 2 or 3 years, this wasn't what it was cracked up to be. What was missing then? What did you feel like? Why isn't this what it was supposed to be?
Yeah, well, I certainly was obviously missing the time and the money, and obviously the significance. And I think at that point in time, Leslie felt, my wife, that she had potentially been sold a bill of goods. I was really kind of getting to a point in my parenting years. I had 2 young boys, and really wanted to spend more time with them. And yet the business was really kind of my first priority. So I think it was really a realignment of my priorities and what I wanted going forward. And it meant that I needed to make a change.
Yeah, that's really well said. It took me, again, I'm a slow learner. It took me probably a year to figure this out. The time was the real issue. My business at that time, my 3rd or 4th business, it was actually giving me money. But I still felt like this wasn't what it was cracked up to be, because I felt like a hostage to this business. I bought myself, you used the word job. I built myself a job.
Yep.
And that job had probably more tyranny involved in it, more claim on my life than when I worked, if you worked in corporate. Because then, you can go home on Friday and come back on Monday and leave it behind.
That's right.
And you weren't leaving it behind. So you came to the end of yourself on that stuff. I think you mentioned that you found my book or found us or whatever. And this isn't a commercial for us. We have nothing new under the sun. We haven't invented anything, but this happened to be your path. So you found something that kind of gave you a big aha. What was it?
Yeah. So I think I was introduced to 3 to 5 Club, the book in particular, invited to visit a group by John Hokama, actually. Good friend of mine, and John was in the process of building a group, a 3 to 5 group, and so I visited and read the book, and really started to see clearly where I was and where I wanted to go. I think I was in a real season of disorientation, feeling like I, again, had jumped into something that I thought would be different than what it actually was. And it was really, the book Making Money is Killing My Business just really rang true. And I began to become reoriented, to realize that, wait a minute, this wasn't, just this wasn't such a what I thought was a good idea. I mean, it was actually a bad idea, and it was being carried out violently, as you have said. But there is structure. There was a way to potentially, bring this into order. And that's when I was introduced to the different stages of business. It was pretty clear that I could see I was, probably in a stage 2 or 3 business at the time. And then really begin to see through the introduction of the book, and also joining a 3 to 5 Club, that, I needed to get to stage 4 and eventually stage 5 as soon as I could by achieving my business maturity date.
So 3 to 5 Club, for our listeners, is business mastermind for business owners. Specifically, it's not a networking group, has nothing to do with that. It's at a much different level. And it's a place where we all figure out together. We use this phrase. It's a place to go to say 3 magic words. I don't know.
Yep.
Where do you go to say, I don't know? We don't have that opportunity.
That's right. We don't, not only in business, but in life. And so,
Then we had a syllabus, a syllabus to help us figure out how to get through that. So you've talked before offline about being off the treadmill or being on the treadmill. And what are some things that you feel like you learned in your journey that were beginning to get you hope that you could get off this hostage treadmill you were on?
Yeah. I think there were some, key concepts. Obviously, I needed to realize that I no longer wanted to be or could be the craftsman, right? I couldn't be the one in the business making the chairs any longer. I needed to begin to really create an organization, create a business, put other very capable or even more capable people around me in the different areas of the business, so that I could begin to really. Oftentimes, I use the word picture of a steamship, right? Like, get out of the engine room, get up onto deck, so I can at least start breathing air and certainly kind of take some soundings. But eventually, I wanted to get up to the crow's nest so I could see where this business was going to go eventually. Nice. And avoid the pitfalls and so on and so forth. So really. Moving into more of a leadership, executive leadership role as opposed to an operator.
So one of the things we talked about and you read in the book is this idea of a business maturity date, a BMD. And how did that fall into, or how did that work its way into, how did that help you get hope?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like any great goal, such as a business maturity date, which, Chuck, we can certainly define here in several different ways, but nonetheless, it needed to be time stamped, right? And that's what I loved about, the 3 to 5 Club. It put outside eyes on my business and on me, and brought accountability that I'd never really had as a business owner. And so the idea, which I think actually can be done quicker than 3 to 5 years, was to get my business to a point of maturity in 3 years. And for me, that was going to be June 29, 2011. June 29 is my wedding anniversary. And 2011 seemed like a reasonable amount of time, which was about 2 years. To actually get the business to a point where I could actually take time away from it and it would continue to make money.
So that's part of the definition of a business maturity date. You mentioned at the time, it has to be time stamped, that any business can get to the place where it gives us money. It's when our business gets to the place where it's giving us back regularly, consistently, both time and money, that I can be gone on Thursdays or I can be gone on Fridays. And the business makes money when I'm not there. It doesn't stop when I stop. A business maturity date means it gives me both time and money, whatever I want, whether it's 1 day a week or 3 days a week. So I think that's important that that people understand that. And you're right. When I named 3 to 5 Club, I named it figuring that from the beginning, from the printing of a business card to being able to get consistently some time, even if it's a half a day, from your business, it shouldn't take us more than 3 to 5 years in any industry. And you're right, we could have named it 1 to 3 Club, because most people that we connect with aren't starting their businesses. They've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years behind them. They've laid a bunch of groundwork, and it is really just a 1 or 2 year shift to get to where, okay, I'm no longer a hostage to my business. What are some, so that was was there any time at point in time where you felt like, oh, I've set this date that's, a year out or whatever, and I don't know, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make it. Was there any doubts?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think for small businesses, mine in particular, as we started to hire, staff and begin to put these key positions in place, for a small business, it meant that that business maturity date was hanging kind of, in the, kind of, just hanging out there, kind of at risk at all times, just by maybe losing an employee. If it was my assistant, or if it was a producer, or if it was maybe our front desk person or a key customer service person, just losing that one person would set me back.
It's like two steps forward, one step forward, two steps back kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And there were a lot of those moments for sure, no doubt about it. But again, really stuck to it, and my team members helped me stay committed to that, and held me accountable to get into
So let's
that.
explore that for a second. So you have this business maturity date where you have in your mind that on your business maturity date, you're going to walk out the door on that day, and going forward, you're going to take fill in the blank. You're going to have every Friday off, or every Monday off, or every Wednesday morning off, and then you're going to build on that. And it just sounds like this self-centered sort of thing that everybody else should be talked about. They're just like, what is Jeff doing? How dare he? Did you experience that from other people, or did you experience something different? Or maybe mix.
Yeah, no, I think I didn't necessarily have any experiences. I think, however, I felt that way about myself. So
yes.
Coming with,
that was the only person I experienced that from was me.
Exactly. Like, just had, a work ethic that, I grew up with, my parents instilled in me. And this idea of not working, as hard as I had been, really didn't, it felt really uncomfortable for myself. I had to get used to it.
I hear that all the time, nobody else seemed to have a problem with it. I was the one. I'm thinking of this guy in Chicago who was working 5-6 days a week, making a couple $100,000 a year. Now he works 1 day a week and makes $500,000 a year. And he had the hardest time with this. He felt so bad. And his entire team was constantly trying to push him out the door to get him to his freedom. They were more than happy to do that, because that means they had more agency. It showed that he demonstrated confidence in them. So how did you communicate this with your team in a way that they obviously didn't push back on it? What benefit do you feel like they got out of you pursuing a business maturity date?
Yeah, I think, a lot. I think it really started with our culture, which I'm sure we'll get into here, maybe in another podcast of some sort in the future. Yeah. But, really one of the things that 3 to 5 Club and the book in particular really stressed was, just the importance of a 2-page strategic plan, and really the importance of making that first page, kind of your roadmap, really, the Bible of your business, coming up with, again, vision, mission, core values, just this whole idea of what this business was about, and that it was here to provide an ideal lifestyle, not just for me, but for all of our people, all of our stakeholders. And so I think that was, one of the key things that really aligned with what we were trying to create from a culture perspective. If anyone was hired into the organization and had took exception to, someone exercising an ideal lifestyle, it was not something that stuck around real long.
Yeah. And so, I definitely want to have you back to talk about how you built that culture of inclusion and freedom for everybody, because I think it's important. But I think it's important from my perspective that we understand that a business maturity date is not self-centered. Actually, every experience I've ever had with it is that somebody else benefited as well. Everybody else in the business benefited. Well, we've just scratched the surface and we're out of time, which, it's hard to move on. But how can people get a hold of you to learn more about your experience and for insurance?
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of a quick conclusion to what's been a great journey, and really a plan followed that Chuck's laid out in a couple of his books. But we were able to sell our business successfully here in March of 2022. We're just finishing up a 3-year earnout, and we were purchased by a private equity company that is branded by the name of One Digital Insurance. We're a national insurance brokerage, and I can be found at Jeff Krommendyk at gmail.com would probably be the best place to reach me without getting, intermixing business
Sure.
and this idea. And you can always look me up with One Digital as well,
Yeah,
which is One Digital.
and we can also put people in touch with you. They can get a hold of us and say, hey, I want to hear more about how Krommendyk pulled this off and how he got to the point where he was a hostage and now he's got this freedom and now he sold the business. How did he do all that? Love for people to connect with you on that so you can mentor them in that situation as well. Jeff, this has been a pleasure. We're going to have you back. It was too short, but it was sweet. Appreciate you and appreciate your journey.
Great. Thank you, Chuck.
That wraps up another episode of the Get Off the Treadmill podcast. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe and hit the like button to ensure you are receiving the latest tools you need to grow your business and to get off the treadmill. If you want more information on the 3 to 5 Club, the Crankset Group, or to book Chuck as a business advisor, speaker, or workshop leader, you can contact us at grow@cranksetgroup.com. Until next time, have a great week.